So today I am blessed to have Kyra in the studio with me, and she has a podcast, Imperfectly Broken, the podcast. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't listened to all your, but the message that you have, and every time you and I talked, actually, we have very deep, intense conversations fast. Like, it's like, whoa, that was deep. Within 2 seconds of, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, true.
And obviously my experience with life. You've actually helped me out a few times with my boys. So, Kyra, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was invited on the show a few weeks ago, and then I was busy, but he filled me in, so I appreciate it. Fit me in, and I'm excited to talk about my podcast today.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it worked out. I really am, because you have such a unique look on life, and I think it can help a lot of people. Your standpoint is from the LDS Church.
That's true. Yep.
And you're young, and I'm not kidding you when I say this. I mean, I'm 45, right? But every time we talk, I feel like I'm talking to a 30-year-old that's been around the block. You are so absorbed in your surroundings, and you're so sympathetic to situations. Like you have compassion. And I think in this day and age, not too many people have that.
No, it's true. I really appreciate that. I feel like that's something that I've really wanted to be. I've wanted to become that person, because I feel like if you don't bring purpose into the pain, then what was it for? Did it even matter at all? Yeah. And so I feel like with pain, if you turn it into purpose, then it means something. And I didn't have my teenage years, I was really depressed. I had a lot of depression and anxiety. And so I kind of turned that into being more depth, or having more depth. And someone told me this, so I'm totally stealing it, but depth comes from depression. And I feel like that is such a great way of saying, that this pain turns you into someone. I'm sure you've heard of the refiner's fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I feel like that's a big part. And then also in 2019, I broke my arm in half. So
yeah, that's a meaty scar too,
yeah,
by the way.
so I had six different surgeries on it, which was very intense. It was a very difficult year. But I feel like even through that, I've been able to help others. And there's this quote that I'll pull up in a minute, but it basically says that the final step of healing is to help others. It's by Gloria something, so I'll pull it up. But I love what she's saying, that there's lots of steps of healing, but the final step is helping others. And I feel like I find so much joy and satisfaction and meaning from helping others. It just fills my bucket. It makes me feel really happy.
Yeah, that's legit. What so going you're very broad spectrum. I looked at like a lot of the titles that you have. You dance around a lot of topics.
It's very true.
And you give all of your guests the freedom to speak, and you entice them to bring more out, which I think I could learn a lot from what you've already done, and you're extremely young, which is impressive. Kind. What are some of the best subjects that you've come across, and what are the best what is the reoccurring thing that you've noticed that we can all learn from, or that we can all imply in our own lives today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like that's very deep. So good job. I was going to say, I absolutely love psychology. So I'm a psych major.
Oh, nice.
I'm actually graduating next week. So that's exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I feel like depth is really important to me. And I feel like people listen to find depth and to find meaning. And so not all of my episodes are full of depth. Some of them are just kind of fun and entertaining. But I do strive for ones that are filled with depth and meaning. And so you told me that you listened to one of my episodes about mourning and grief. And I had one of my friends on that lost her sister-in-law and had to help her husband cope, as well as herself. And I've also had podcasts about just lots of different things. And so I feel like meaning and depth is really important, and meaning and depth comes from lots of different places. And I feel like one way it comes from is from pain, like we've talked about, and like you've mentioned, like something being pushed into something really hard and overcoming that, or getting stuck in that. And so I think that's really important. And I also think depth comes from family experiences, learning from others. I think you can vicariously learn from others. I definitely think you learn more when it happens to you, but I'm not saying that you can't, because I feel like I have learned when other things happen to my family, and even looking up to people is huge, you know?
Touching on that, I think especially if you've never had heartbreak, if you've never lost someone that's been so dear to you, if something like very intensely has put you through the ringer, and you haven't been aware enough to really step up, you're not really susceptible to it, and you don't really learn from other people's lessons until you've been cracked open. For me, well, that's my opinion too, to be honest with you. But what I've found is, you don't really know much, and you're not open to it until something has come down on you in such a way. Like, I had a dog, Mavis, and she was a beautiful dog, and I trained this dog so, like, amazingly. She was a therapy dog. I could take her into hospitals. Like, she was trained, registered, the whole deal. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about her. She was trained for a reason, and she was a big Bruno-looking dog, bigger than the dogs that I've got now, and she was tough-looking, and we had her to do that, like to be able to meet people in hospitals that were genuinely scared of big dogs, and she was so sweet. She would come up to you and just match you, and just, if you were scared of her, she would just put her head down, hey, how you doing, you know, just a super sweet love. And I had her spayed, and I'm pretty sure they used dirty tools, and within months she started going jaundice and went from a nice healthy 120 pounds down to nothing. Now, look, this is a dog that I went through a divorce with this dog, and me and this dog, we were like Rocky together, training together, running. I'd ride my bike, she'd be there beside me, and we were just so in tune. I could talk to her and she would understand. And when I lost her, it started to crack me open for things that were coming ahead in my life I had no idea about. So life became a little bit richer. And I didn't know what was going through. But now, hindsight, looking back, I was like, if I lost my wife, and when I lost if I didn't lose Mavis first, and if I lost my wife, I don't think I would have come out of that, because it took me literally 2 years to come out of losing my wife. Well, 3 years actually, to come out of losing my wife, and I'm in the 4th year now, and I'm at a place of strength. And I don't cry from losing her now. I cry from the joy of knowing her, which is awesome.
Which is beautiful.
Which is so beautiful. And it's the same as my dog. I used to have a trucking company, and my dog would come in. I got a couple of photos of just me, and Mavis would come up as she was dying, and she would just rest her head right here, and I can feel it right now, Mm-hmm. It kills me. But if I didn't have that first, I wouldn't have been aware, and I wouldn't learn. And now going through like the double whammy of all that, I'm now looking at people's struggles, and it's like, oh, I know what they're going through. Or, oh, I better watch out for that, because that could end me in that situation. Where even like going through school, and, like, communicate with your teachers. Just go see your professor if you're going through struggles, and reach out. Like the moment you reach out, they're aware, right, that you're struggling. And they are so amazing, because I had a car accident at the start of this semester. And I reached out to all of them, and they were like, hey, everything's fine. You're not going backwards. You come to every lesson and you do the right things. You'll be fine. I'm like, no, but I won't, because I'm raising kids. I can't and a couple of my professors cut me a bit of slack. Now, it doesn't say that I didn't do all the work, because I did more than enough work, right? But deadlines I missed, and they worked with me because they were aware. You should. Now, maybe they cut me a different, maybe I got some good, anyway. But go and see them.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I went on a tangent there, but do you know what I mean?
Oh, I love tangents.
Yeah,
I'm all for tangents. I feel like that's something that I totally support on my podcast. I'm like, wherever we need to go, let's go, because I feel like if something pops into your mind, most times it's for a reason. Yeah. And maybe not, but I feel like most of the time when it happens, it's like, okay, let's go for it. So, no, I love that. I was also thinking about, in addition to cracking your heart open, I think it's also about being humble and being meek. Because if you're willing to learn from other people's experiences, you most likely will. If you're like, no, life is about me, my life sucks, then you're not going to learn from other people's experiences, mistakes, you name it. And so I feel like it has a lot to do with, are you willing and do you want to? One thing that my podcast has changed about my life is not only doing the podcast, but also it's opened my eyes to how much I can share, because I'm looking for things to share. I'm always awake and alive and looking for things. And it's changed how I take notes in class. It changed how I interact with people because I was always looking for things to share, always looking for ways to create meaning. And like I said, I'm a psych major, and so I feel like a lot of my classes are actually things that are extremely interesting and share-worthy. And you don't have to be a psych major or interested in psychology to find the things applicable and to find the things interesting. For example, I was reading this one book, and they found that Tylenol can help with emotional things as well.
Why is that?
So it has to do with the chemicals in the brain, but it's related to, you know, how if you get hurt, like physical pain, like maybe a child falls off their bike and they immediately go to their mom for hugs and kisses and all that stuff, that is releasing those chemicals to ease the pain. And Tylenol does the same thing. So it goes to show that if you use it for emotional reasons, like Tylenol could help you that way too.
Good to know.
Yeah, very interesting, right? I've never actually like tried it out, but that's what the research says.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like what we're talking about because it's close to my heart. You know, I've gone through a lot of heartache, and I sincerely believe I've had dreams that I am meant to share what I've gone through. So if you do tune in and you have listened to me up to this point, I thank you so much. I hope that I have helped in some stupid little way, even though it's not stupid, you know, because sometimes we don't know how to reach out. So, yeah, Kyra.
Yeah. In order to connect that to religion, because that's kind of who I am, I believe that Heavenly Father supports us in the silly things. And I created a blog about it. I wrote a blog post about it. It's called Silly Things. And one time we were creating a puzzle. We were putting together a puzzle, and I could not find this piece. I wanted to find an edge piece. And I was like, this is the stupidest, silliest thing. But I prayed about it because why the heck not? And I'm not even kidding you. It almost like jumped off the thing. Like I found it immediately. And that doesn't always happen. In fact, that rarely happens. But I have a testimony that he cares about the silly things. And so, yeah, I totally agree that in some way, maybe you've helped in a silly way. And I feel like silly things are great. By the way, I found that quote really quick. It's by Gloria Steinem. And she said, "The final stage of healing is using what you learn to help other people." And like I said, I strongly believe in that.
Yeah. No, it's that touches. It's just my message. So I appreciate that. It's funny how you'd like the quote thing. I think that's pretty cool.
I love quotes.
Yeah, you're a very complex person. I like that there's so many levels, and you're very smart.
Thank you.
It's you. I don't recall things half as much. Like I know what I want to say, and I usually goof it up all the way through it, which is fine because I'm human. Whatever.
Yeah, it happens. Embrace imperfection, right?
Yeah, imperfection. I like it.
Okay, wait. I want you to share what we were just talking about.
To touch on
okay,
that.
Good.
Okay, so I critiqued. You did something that was very beautiful. You and your friend are talking, and she's your best friend. And as you were talking, you gave her a compliment, and she deflected it like it was no tomorrow. And then I think she said something about you, and you accepted it. And I thought that was ever so wise. And as we go through life, we always want to deflect. And I had an experience and a shout out to one of my best friends who was a coach of mine in LA when I was working in Hollywood. I went on stage one night and I had a rough night on stage. It was okay. Everything was fine. But there was, at the time, I would beat myself up on the smallest, stupidest things because I wasn't perfect, right?
Right.
And I had still a lot to go to learn, you know, and I'm still learning, apparently. However, I came off stage, my friend was right near me, and a person come up to me and they said, "Oh, hey, thank you so much. You did so good." I went, you know what I mean? And that's all that I did. And then that person, "Oh, well, I thought you did really good," you know, and that person walked away, and my coach grabbed me to the side and was very, very aggressive and said, "Don't you pee on their parade," you know? And I'm like, what? It's like, that's his experience. You know, and if he's had a great experience with what art you've put out into the world, let them have that experience. And he said, at the same token, it's going to heal your heart to hear, even though it was tough, you did a good thing. So it's kind of where I'm coming from to hear you accepting a positive outlook to who you are.
See, and that just speaks to your character that you're looking for those things. Because I feel like a lot of people would just hear that and move on. But you're like, wow, that's so beautiful, you know? And that's how I try to live life, is I try to learn from the little things. And I feel like those are important. I wanted to share something really quick. My dad has this phrase that he's heard his childhood. His dad told it to him. is it's don't take away my blessings. And so let me kind of give a background. So if you're trying to serve someone, like do their dishes, I guess in my home setting, it's like doing your siblings' dishes or, you know, making their bed or something like that. But even if you're making a meal for someone and they're like fighting you on it, like, hey, no, I don't want help. Don't do that for me, because they feel bad. And I've been there. You know, it's kind of hard to accept help sometimes because you just feel, sometimes it's pride. Sometimes it's like you just feel bad. You feel like a burden. But anyway, something that my dad has said that I just love is he's like, don't take away my blessings. And it's never like in a harsh, you know, aggressive way, but it's like, hey, I want to serve you. Let me serve you. Ooh. You know, and that's huge. It takes one thing to serve someone, and it takes another thing to be served.
To let it be.
You know, to let it be. And so that's kind of how I try to think about it is, you know, I believe they're going to get blessings for serving me, whether or not it's even just them feeling warm inside, which I think's great. But don't take away their blessings and don't fight them if they want to serve you, you know?
You know, I'll add to that. Sometimes they're gonna do something for you and free up a minute or two. Maybe that minute or two you needed just to have a breather. Maybe you needed to have a little cry. Maybe you needed to just have a separate moment for yourself. So that's a couple of people have done that for me, especially over the last few years, and I really appreciate it. Imperfectly Broken, the podcast. I cannot push it anymore. You guys need to support, sign up, follow, and listen, because you'll learn. And just go through the titles. The titles alone sing to my heart. You know, it's so cool.
I love titles. So yeah, I try to be creative with them.
I like it. I'm here with Kyra, and we're talking all things her podcast, Imperfectly Broken, the podcast. You guys should please go out and check that out. I think it's so worth it, and I think she has such a great voice. I genuinely hope that podcast just skyrockets and people can see what you have to offer, because I think it's absolutely beautiful the way how people are broken and you uncover those things.
Thank you. No, that really, really means a lot to me. I asked Rob if I could tease a few different episodes. So this one is episode 92. The Miracle Medicine, and this is a little blurb. I said, I'm serious, guys. The information in this episode just might blow your mind. I absolutely love being a psych major and a family life human development minor. I constantly find the quality of my life being elevated, and I truly love learning. I'm very blessed. Our mental, emotional, and physical health is important, and this miracle medicine benefits all three. Sound too good to be true? That's fair, but it's the truth. Research-based and empirically supported, this miracle medicine can change your life. And if you want to find out what that is, you're going to have to go listen. Ooh. And then I'll share one more with you. This one is episode 110. This is only 15 minutes long, and it says it's 5 suggestions on how to support someone who's struggling. The blurb says, this episode is a quick rundown of my suggestions on how to support someone going through a difficult time. They aren't research-based or evidence-based. They are all just from my own experiences and what has been true for me. And I have had a few different people tell me, hey, I really like this episode. I really like that episode. So I thought I would tease those two. I'm pretty proud of how they turned out. There's a few times I have this idea of how it's going to sound. I'm like, hey, I have this idea that I really like. And then I record it. I'm like, oh, I feel like that fell flat. Ooh. But I'm hoping, I think those hit my mark. So anyway, go listen to episode 92 and 100. Wow, I'm like forgetting. Yeah, 110.
99 and 110.
Yep.
There you go. Check those out. So did you get good feedback from those? Is that why they come to mind?
Yeah, so I guess feedback isn't really maybe the greatest word for it, because people, even though I ask for suggestions like, hey, what can I do to make it better? Because I feel like there are some things that I'm kind of vulnerable with getting feedback. It's like, oh, no, I worked really hard on that. Don't tell me what I did wrong, you know? But I feel like with my podcast, most times if people are like, hey, I would really appreciate it if you did this, or I'd really appreciate it if you did this, most of the time I'm cool to hear that because I want to improve it so badly. So I don't know if feedback's the right word, because a lot of people don't give me feedback. They just say they liked it, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's an indicator.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. So my grandma actually gets her nails done every few weeks, and she shared my podcast with her nail lady. Ooh. And the nail lady told her, apparently last time she went, that she really loved episode 90, I think it's... Yeah, 110, the one about 5 suggestions on how to support someone who's struggling. And she said that she shared it with multiple people. So I felt like that was the biggest compliment, when people are like, I love what you said so much, I shared it, you know?
That's valid. That's like legitly valid. Like I like to share a lot of books, you know what I mean? And I think that's a high praise scenario.
Absolutely.
You're right. Like I get people, oh man, your podcast, your station was awesome. Listened in. Yeah, that's good. I mean, they're very generic at that point. It's just, oh yeah, that's good.
And you appreciate it.
Absolutely. 100%. You know, even to think that I have a listener out there that does listen, it's great.
Yeah.
But I think when someone comes up and they give you a bit more, it's like, ooh,
yeah,
I like that.
It feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good, especially because you know how hard you worked on it. You know, because I'll be honest, in 110, I'm a little bit vulnerable in it. I'll kind of leave that with it being said, but I feel like when you are vulnerable and someone's like, "Hey, I really liked that," it's like it, you know, fills your bucket. You're like, "Okay, that was worth sharing."
Yep.
You know, even though that was really scary.
It's real. No, that's I notice with some people that come on and they're, oh yeah, I can be vulnerable. It's like, well, give me something of your low point, and then we talk about it, and they're like, oh yeah, and then I'm done with that now, and then now I do this. It's like, hang on a minute.
No, I actually have a super big thing about that. I feel like there's parts of our stories that we skim over.
Absolutely.
And I actually have an episode literally called The Parts We Skim Over. But I feel like there are parts in our lives where we're like, yeah, so I didn't get into the program, and then I did this and this and this, and it's like, yeah, so I didn't get into the program, and that broke my heart. And I was devastated, and I didn't go to any of my classes for a day because I was so sad.
Right.
You know, and then it's like, and then I decided that things were going to be okay, you know, but we skim over the parts that are hard sometimes, and sometimes we wallow in it, and, you know, I get that too. But I feel like it's important to talk about the difficult times because that's part of your story too.
Yeah, like you say, wallow in it. I think it's good to pause and be there.
Yeah.
I call those moments our Control-Alt-Delete because we don't want to talk about it again.
No, I love
it.
We
don't, yeah, but if you do well in that and sit, right, and it's horrible and it's hard, where some people will get like split up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they run out as quick as they can and go sleep with someone to try and, oh, look, someone loves me. You know what? That's not right. I mean, good, go for it. If that's what you want to do, fantastic.
I mean, it's not going to fill your soul. You know, it's not going to.
If you're hunting for something like that because you're filling a void, you're doing something majorly wrong. You know, because that hurts. It hurts to find when someone has decided to move on from you. You know, that's sometimes it's worse than even, like, I would almost rather them be dead and leave you that way versus they just choose not to be with you.
Right, and they're like, it's me, not you.
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah. Actually, well, it must be me because you're running away from me the other direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so just take a moment and breathe through those moments and just, like, look at the walls, smell the smells, and just, like, know that one day this will be a memory that you need to hold on to know when you're absolutely soaring with someone that loves you for everything that you are and adores you for who you are. Because if you don't take those times, you know, I had someone walk out on me and planted seeds in my head that I was a horrible person, you know, only to find out that it was so different. And I think that's valid. And you need to have... You need to have that. I mean, it was devastating in my world, and I did, like, from what I was told, that she was scared that one day I would beat her up.
Wow. Right,
and she was a psychologist. Anyway, we were. Let's not talk about that too much because I'm vulnerable. But it's something that I did. I went and sought help, and I did many tests to make sure that, because I didn't think I was ever going to snap and beat someone up. Like, yeah, I love to fight. I mean, it was what I grew up doing, but not anymore, you know. And I would hate to put those efforts on people. So yeah, in the end, everything came to light, and it wasn't a me situation. It was a her. So
yeah, and that happens sometimes too, for sure.
Ooh, yep. But I appreciate it. I think I'm a stronger person for it. But I remember those times. I like right now, just sitting here, I'm feeling like I remember the grey room that I was in, the texture of the walls.
Absolutely.
And the empty house that I had because we were moving, apparently. Well, she was moving and I didn't move, you know. It was a hard time. But
our memory's so interesting.
Oh, and the smells, right?
Yeah.
How do you get the smells and the taste? I don't understand that.
No, I don't get it either. Our brains are kind of crazy. It makes sense that they're still, you know, researching and trying to find out more about the brain. Yeah. I don't think we'll ever really know, you know, the complexities of our brain because there's just so many things.
Yeah.
But anyway.
The one thing I I warn people about doing things. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I don't know much about braids, so please take it with a grain of salt. But from my understanding, it's habits are very powerful. And once you create a synapsis, right, it's there. It's in there and it doesn't leave until you make it weak, which is not doing it. So the more times you do something, the more times it fires, the more stronger that it gets. So anything, you know, and sometimes and take that with the same as there's just some things you can't unsee. You know what I mean? Like my mother, for instance, she kept sending me these emails of crazy, crazy stuff. And there was this one email in particular, and I hate to paint this picture, but I will. It's like they're in India or Africa, and it's an electrical train. They're on. There's like all these people all over this train, and this one guy is sitting on the top of the train, and then he stands up. And the overhead wires are live, and that's a lot of power. And all you see is a green flash and then dust. Man, I will never. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but you can't unsee that for the rest of your days. And I wrote back, please never send me stuff like this again. I don't want to see this. Mm-hmm. You know, my life has taken on a different. That kind of got dark. Sorry, guys.
Well, maybe to brighten it up, I actually have a podcast episode about reinforcing, and so you're kind of talking about reinforcement. Yeah. So it's called It's episode 113, Strategic Watering, and it's basically about. I'm talking about operant conditioning principles. So it's vast and complex. I talk about reinforcement, extinction, schedules of reinforcement, partial reinforcement, extinction effect, and extinction burst. And I break all of those down so they make sense. But it's all about habits and building them. And I relate it to parenting a lot. Oh. But yeah, so that's kind of related to what you were talking about. You're like synapses. Yeah, that's 100% what it is. It's called strategic watering because you're choosing what to water. You're choosing what to give attention.
I love that.
And you're choosing what not to water. And then hopefully over time that will wither and die, that habit or whatever it is, that behavior. And so anyway, that's what that episode's about.
Oh, I'm definitely, I've been writing I've got 99,
oh,
110,
you're
113.
So kind.
I'm going to listen to these. I really need to hear them. So no, I appreciate that. How long have you been doing your podcast now?
Yeah, so in October of 2022, I had two friends tell me, like 2 different weeks, or there was like a week in between. They didn't talk to each other. It wasn't like they were like, hey, we should tell Kyra to do this. But randomly, these 2 separate people were like, hey, Kyra, you should start a podcast. And the first person, I laughed. I was like, oh, that's so funny. Like, thank you, but haha, you know. And then the second person said, hey, Kyra, I was listening to your Marco Polo. It's just like a video chat, you know, app. And she was like, and I realized as I was cleaning my room that I would love to listen to you on a podcast. And I was like, okay, this is, you know, eerie that 2 people now have told me within like a week. And so I said, okay, maybe I'll think about this. I don't know. And she said, Kyra, just look on Amazon to see how much a microphone would be. Ooh. And that kind of made it real. Like, oh, you know, that I could do that, you know, like that doesn't seem hard. That would be 2 seconds of my time, you know? And so anyway, I started in October 2022, and I signed up for a program. And then I was so scared that I didn't record an episode for a month. So my first episode comes out November 16th in 2022. But I did start it technically in October. So anyway, and I was going to say, maybe this is towards the end of the hour, but if you want to get little tiny blurbs, I only have like 60 characters. So I have to be very specific with what I say, but you can sign up for Remind for an episode to like get a little blurb about each episode when I post. You just text at KM podcast to 81010. So then you can sign up for a Remind, and I only ever send you a text if I'm posting, and like I said, it's like a sentence or 2 because I only have 60 characters. So
wow.
Yeah. Have you heard of Remind?
No.
You know, so basically it's lots of different people use it, but anyone can create a free account. And you can get people to sign up. So you could even start one. Like just start one up for your podcast, your YouTube, your show, whatever.
You need to, huh?
And so then people can sign up by just texting whatever form you say. So I just did something easy, KM podcast, because my middle name's Marie. And so that was just easy. And then you can send out announcements basically to people and they'll just get it to their text. So they just text the number 81010, and then they send at whatever the number is. So for example, like in my choir class, she had us sign up for Remind, and she would text us reminders about our concerts coming up, or like, hey, don't forget to bring this sheet of music, or stuff like that. So it's like a way to remind people. And then for my ward, we've signed up for a Remind, and they tell us about activities or remind us about certain things. And so, yeah, super easy, super
So it's to
convenient.
keep you in the loop.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
It just in case this reminds me, which I never ever do, but my profiles on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, if you search Rob Burdzy, that's Burdzy. It'll come straight to my hook there, which is 333 chameleon, and it looks like chameleon spelt wrong, but it's not. It's actually the star formation, and I just did that because I'm wacky, and who knows, right? But I like threes. I think they're interesting. So 333 chameleon. You can find me on Instagram there, or you can find me on Facebook. Just look up Rob Burdzy, and that's Burdzy. And follow me there, because I do have a lot of information coming out, and all of these interviews that I've done, I've done video recording on all of them. And everything that I have done, which I will be posting about, all except for one. There's one person that didn't want theirs, and that's fine. I respect. So, yeah. But if you want to follow me in my journey, I will be posting more about it. If you look on YouTube, I have a channel that's called Widowed, Trio, and Freedom. So good luck finding that, because apparently it's really hard to find. But Widowed, Trio, and Freedom, you'll find me there as well. So
awesome.
This has been fun. We have a little bit of time, but you're coming up next.
Yeah.
So maybe we break, give you a moment to be ready. And
Yeah, works for me.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is my last one for this semester. This is cool.
It's kind of sad, but yeah.
It is.
It's bittersweet.
Yeah. Oh, however, I will say I have free reign, apparently, according to Ryan, that I can come in here over summertime and do interviews.
That's awesome.
And I'm really open to it, because I get a good recording, and it's great to have a discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So please go out and support my Kyra. She is amazing. She's not my Kyra. She's my friend. I adore you as a friend, and thank you.
Yeah. And then just to kind of explain why it's the podcast, it's because I have a blog that I started in 2017. And so it's just a continuation thing. And to separate imperfectlybroken.com and the podcast, I just added the podcast at the end. So in case you were wondering, I feel like I should explain that.
I think that's fun. I kind of like the podcast.
Yeah.
It's like just in case you didn't know.
Yeah. The podcast.
The podcast is very good. It's not bad. No, I like it. So, Kyra, I want to say thank you from my heart to yours. You're amazing. I love the good that you're bringing into this
back
world.
at you.
Yeah. It's fun, huh?
Yeah. It feels good to lift each other up.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I really do.
So Rob asked me if I wanted to say anything, which that's what I always do on my podcast. I always give the guest final words. So maybe that's something you want to do, maybe not. But I always say this little thing at the very end. I say, don't forget to embrace imperfection, find meaning, satisfaction, and joy from the journey. And I say, I'm Kyra, and this is Imperfectly Broken, the podcast. So anyway, that's how I finish every episode.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to close out with the thing that I've noticed about life and that we don't do enough of is love, right? I honestly believe that when you lead with love with all that you do, love trumps all, love heals hearts. And even though at the time it sucks and you're angry and you're like, grrr, bitter, just try to find a little bit of love in the moment and cut that person some slack. And yeah, it might hurt. And yeah, guess what? Your ego just lost, but who cares? You show a bit of compassion and a bit of love, and it goes such a long way. And I want to say thank you so much for your time, listening to me through my efforts of mumbling and stumbling and messing up songs so many times, but trying to, put a message out there that we can do hard things. And sometimes you just got to sit in the uncomfortability, and know that we're broken. We're all broken. And there's just ways of when you heal, you'll heal stronger if you are in tune with what you're going through. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for being my friend.
Absolutely. Back at you.